Indian Bollywood cinema and Bollywood songs are played in the International Film Fair. Like for example, you speak about the RRR movie song, Oscar Awards, right? That particular song was actually the same dance and the same song was played on the Oscar stage. So there are several gamers, okay, who actually give the content in an, like Haryanvi or like Marathi or Telugu or Tamil, these languages. They have more views on YouTube than compared to the English and Hindi dominant. How to operate a cell phone, how to make calls, how to use WhatsApp, how to use Instagram. These things, like back at home also, like for example, my nephew teaches my mother.
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Chiranjit Mishra and I welcome you all to today's topic, globalization and its impact on Indian society, which is a very important theme so far as anthropology is concerned. And today we have with us an eminent faculty member of VisionIAS, Suhas Sir, who is going to enlighten us about this particular topic. Welcome, sir.
Hello, thank you, Chiranjit.
So the moment we see globalization or any particular question on this particular topic, how to go about answering it? What anthropological framework to choose?
Yes. When we firstly look at the importance of globalization and its impact on the Indian society, in anthropology, especially in the past 5 years analysis or 7 years analysis, if you see, both in paper 1 as well as paper 2, there is good number of questions that has come from globalization and its impact. And it's not something this year they have asked, so next year they would not ask. And the limitedness of the syllabus in anthropology has given the scope for that question. And not just this, it is also a good question for general studies paper 1 and also essay, right? So considering this now, when like in this lecture I would be giving, in this particular session, we'll be looking at more in the perspective of anthropology optional rather than the general studies aspect. So now the first important thing that we need to look at about the framework is that the first thing is globalization. We should not look at it as just the economic phenomenon. Okay, so there is this scholar Arjun Appadurai. Arjun Appadurai actually gives scapes. Okay, there's a term called scapes. He presented 5 scapes. Okay, so he says it is the flow of these scapes that is molding the cultural changes at the local area, at the receiving end. Okay, like for example, there is ethnoscape. That means ethnoscape represents the flow of people, and because of this flow of people across the world, what are the changes you are seeing at the ground level? Okay, similarly, there is mediascape. It's about the media, how social media is molding it. And the third one is financescape. That is about the capital. And the fourth one is basically about the ideascape. Ideascape is about the ideology and ideas. And the last one is technoscape. Technoscape is about the spread of technology. How is it going to mold the local cultures? So Arjuna Appadurai mentions about these scapes. Okay, so this is basically something that is molding the the impact that you see because of globalization.
Thank you, sir. You have defined the concept of scapes.
Yes.
Could you cite a few examples?
Yeah, of course. Like for example, I would like to mention some examples from the real life. See, there is one terminology that is given by Ronald Robertson. Ronald Robertson has given a terminology called globalization. Okay, where you have the global things in the local. Okay, so like for example, let me tell you one very good interesting thing. Recently, the mediascape I'm mentioning about. Recently, there was a movie in Telugu that's called Hanuman. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce whether it is Hanuman or Hanuman, because in that movie title, if you see, it is Hanu, H-A-N-U-M-A-N. Okay, so now the simple thing is, even if you look into the movie as such, the movie speaks about the superpowers, like a superhero, because he gets something that is actually related to Lord Hanuman. Okay, so this is the thing. So now the question is, the superhero concept is Marvel or DC, right? So we have actually, that's the global platform, Hollywood. From there we have picked it, we have brought it to Tollywood. Now we cannot say Tollywood, Bollywood, anything, it's Indian cinema, right? So we have brought it there. So the same thing that is called something like a mediascape. You're bringing the global things into the local. But when we say globalization, there is also some things taken from here and celebrated there. Okay, like for example, the Bollywood songs. Russia is well known for Bollywood songs. right? So you can see even international film festivals and all, they are playing Bollywood songs today, right? So that is a mediascape. Okay, another thing, like take McDonald's. What do we eat in McDonald's? Like paneer tikka burger, aloo tikka, right? This thing. That is Indian cuisine, right? But if you go to the same McDonald's in USA, what you get is pork, beef, and all these things, which is actually the same McDonald's, nothing much. They have the same concepts, just the patty changes, right? That is the example of the, like what do you say, the taste that is, or the scape example we are looking at. Okay, so these are like certain examples. We can look at more of it, like for example, Netflix, Sacred Games, like that was shot in India, and the, for example, the Squid Games, that was actually Korean, but so many of us have watched Squid Games, so it doesn't mean that it's just Korean. They are producing it in the local and like putting it on the global stage. You want to watch in Hindi, it is there. You want to watch in English, it is there. You want to watch in Telugu, it is there. You want to watch in Kannada, it is there. So that is the thing. So this is something that was actually spoken about, the globalization, which is a very good example of Scapes.
Very well explained, sir. Now, people often get confused between these two phenomena, that of Westernization and globalization. How do you differentiate?
Okay. See, it's better to actually quote the scholar's name here, because more than my words, the scholar names puts a good weightage, because we are speaking on the perspective of anthropology, right? There is Mysore Narasimhachari Srinivas. He is one of the well-known post-independence era anthropologist. He hails from Karnataka, and basically he defined Westernization in the colonial era perspective. What he said is, when we are actually mimicking the Western culture, Western way of living, the Western aspects, that is called Westernization. That means it's a one-way traffic. You're carrying it from west to east, right? Correct. But on the other hand, globalization is completely different. It is multi-directional. Like just now we saw several examples, like the movie Hanuman. Superhero concept from the global, we have picked it up, right? And Indian Bollywood cinema and Bollywood songs are played in the international film fair. Like for example, you speak about the RRR movie's song, Oscar Awards, right? That particular song was actually the same dance and the same song was played on the Oscar stage, right? So now what you can see is, this is globalization. It is multi-directional. It goes from India to global stage and global stage to India. That is the difference we can see.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Now, sir, coming to this immensely popular French sociologist, Pierre Bourdieu, his theories are very important so far as studying contemporary India is concerned. Right. Could you please shed some light on that?
See, for sure we should look into Pierre Bourdieu's, I don't know how do you pronounce it, I'm sorry, but Pierre Bourdieu's perspective, because he is one of the well-known French sociologists who gave the phenomena, or the concept of culture capital. Okay. So firstly, let me let you know what exactly is culture capital. When we speak about culture capital, what you can understand from this concept is, like, there are several intangible, things, like it can be education, it can be knowledge, it can be art, it can be anything like that. Okay. So these particular things which are intangible culture, that is called the culture capital. This culture capital will be responsible for, like, enhancing the person who is equipped with this cultural capital to a next stage, probably in, like, for example, finance, or like social capital, or anything like that. So let me give you one example. Like, think about like our parents' generation. Like, let us go some 50-60 years back in India. So 1960s, 1970s, anybody who has learned Sanskrit, or anybody who is actually sort of educated in English with a degree, right? Or anybody is having that sort of skills, okay, like say Bharatanatyam, okay, or any such things. Now that was a culture capital, right? So that, like, let us take one simple example, English. Okay, you are educated in English in 1970s. Then you automatically gain the social respect, societal respect. That's the social capital. Okay, that was the thing earlier. But now what has happened is, that is more relevant today. Why? Because now the culture capital is more democratized. It's not sitting on one particular perspective. आपको English पता है, मेरे को English पता है, सब लोग को English पता है. Now it is not that. Now what is happening is it is like got into something unique characteristics that you're going to put on the global stage. So that's why you can see several YouTubers are gaining that prominence, right? By exhibiting that particular culture capital that is unique of that specificities. Okay, that is where, like, another thing I can say in the positive perspective is, like, many of the rural people are able to sort of bring this onto the global stage. Like, what is their unique things? That's why you can see there are several gamers, okay, who actually give the content in an like Haryanvi or like Marathi or Telugu or Tamil, these languages. They have more views in YouTube than compared to the English and Hindi dominance.
Correct.
Okay, so that is where I'm saying there is the culture capital shift, which was actually given by Perry Bourdieu. That concept is very relevant, but in a different context. That's it.
So coming to family structures, if there is one aspect of society that is family structures which has been severely impacted by globalization, what are the key trends that are evident enough to analyze?
See, I would not say that there is no much changes in the family structure. If I use this statement, that would be very wrong to say. Okay, see, but if you look at the textbooks ideology has been oversimplified. Like, they clearly say the joint structure is broken into nuclear families, but that is oversimplified. But there is, like, cultural transformation. Okay, like, for example, the Delhi University's anthropologist Dr. Pooja Sharma has actually made some ethnographic research in both the cities of Bangalore and Delhi, where they have seen that several nuclear families, will not even call that as nuclear families, but several families are connected on daily basis in several decision makings and in several aspects of running the family through media. Like what? Like, for example, video calls, or like through audio calls or through WhatsApp groups, and they are sharing their day in, day out, every activity there. So now how would you put it as? Your decision making of your family is taken by one more, like your parents, like mother, father, somewhere sitting there, right? Would you really call it as a nuclear family now? No. So, like, here there is a gradual, like, change in the way we are looking at the family. But it's absolutely not right to say that a joint structure family has completely changed into a nuclear family. That's not the right thing, probably. Yes.
Okay, sir. So now, in the same context, we'd like to know from you, what is the impact of globalization on Indian marriages and youth identity formation?
Okay. Now, to look at youth identity formations and also the Indian marriages as such with respect to globalization, to see the impact there, the first thing I would like to bring here is Homi Bhabha's concept of hybridity. Okay, so let's not make it very technical, but I'll come up with a small example here. See, you can see that, okay, let us take Indian women in urban areas. Okay, Indian women in urban areas, they wear Western clothes, they speak English, but at the same time, the same women is also looking at the traditional values. Like, for example, if she wants to get married, she will look at the traditional wedding, right? She would choose a proper, like a sari or like some salwar, or I'm not sure in North what they do, but sari or something like that. And the same women who speaks English in her professional space very fluently, the same women switches to the mother tongue to speak conveniently at home, right? No, you cannot look, now you cannot look at this particular cultural behavior as a confusion. It's not cultural confusion, but it's called the cultural code switching. Okay, so that's the hybridity that Homi Bhabha has put forward. So we are bringing that relevance here. Now, the other aspect that you asked is about the marriage. Now, the same thing you can see in the institution, social institution of marriage. There is significant amount of impact also. Like, for example, let us say love marriage. Okay, love marriage in Western countries is completely different from how love marriages work in India, right? Love marriage in Western countries is the consent of two individuals, right? But in India, it's not that. Even despite there is love, there is that love between two individuals, the couple would seek the family's formal authorization, right? So that love marriage is transformed into a what do you say, a tie between two families. Now you tell me, is it traditional or modern? Right? So it's in between. The same way, arranged marriages. Arranged marriage is also like, let us say, for example, when somebody is looking for arranged marriage, parents would get into the marriage matrimonial sites or some the groups or anywhere where they started looking at the global values now in the prospective bride, bridegroom or the bride. So basically, so what they look at is, आपके पास foreign degree है क्या? Okay, or you have that MNC job, or like you have that property, and that is like having that lavish urban culture. Okay, so this is something they're looking at. So what makes this is basically, despite you're going through the traditional way, but you're looking at the global aspects, right? So there is a blend in the marriage culture also, where it is not completely traditional, but still the core is traditional. Okay, yeah.
Now moving to the next question from the examination point of view, how should students approach intergenerational relationships?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. So when you look at this particular, the intergenerational relationships, so there is Margaret Mead's concept that we need to bring it here. Like there is something called post-figurative culture. The post-figurative culture speaks about the scenarios like where elders used to teach things to the young. Okay, like we have understood, we have gone through this, millennials, we have gone through this, right? While the same millennials have also seen something called co-figurative culture. What is co-figurative culture? When we speak about co-figurative culture, I am learning from you, you are learning from me. So we are peers. Okay, neither you are elder to me nor you are younger to me. So we are peers. So that way, when you look at that, the peer group learning is called co-figurative culture. But this was not there in the previous generations. Right? Now, coming further, now we have come down to a point where, along with the co-figurative, we have come down to something called prefigurative. Okay, so here what is happening in the prefigurative culture is the young is teaching the old. How? Like there are several technological aspects, like how to operate a cell phone, how to make calls, how to use WhatsApp, how to use Instagram. These things, like back at home also, like for example, my nephew teaches my mother. So it's like the grandson teaching the grandmother, right? So these things are something you can see as the prefigurative culture. So this is the way the intergenerational relationships are being molded. Yeah.
Now, sir, globalization leads to consumerism. It has already led to consumerism. Yes. Now, how this consumer culture is continuously shaping Indian youth?
Yeah. So now the thing that you're asking about is something everyone is concerned about, right? So there is something called reverse socialization. Okay. Or here, when you look at this part, what you can see is now everything at a household level that's a family is buying, right, is influenced by the youth. Okay, so now if you look into the behavior, that consumption pattern of the consumption pattern and the consumption behavior of the youth, they are more like materialistic. Okay, brand driven, materialistic. So now the question comes, the old generation versus the young generation. The young is dictating, or like, let us not say dictating, influencing. The young is influencing the old to buy what is required at the household. That means now the question is, there is a strong debate between the basic needs, right, versus the consumerism or the materialism, we'll say. Okay, that is something we are looking at in the social context. That's how the youth mentality or the consumer behavior is showing up. That is the thing.
Thank you, sir. Now moving to the last important aspect of globalization, that is digital transformation. So now there is this talk about urban and rural digital divide.
Yes.
To what extent it's true, sir?
See, there is of course the urban and rural digital divide, but I'm not going to say like the stark difference is there in between. Like for example, being the urban dwellers, like let us look into our own transformation into the digital aspects. Like first, probably we started when we were young, we started with the desktops, right? Eventually it went to laptops, then the smartphones, correct? This was the way we transformed our access to the digital world, correct? But if you go to rural areas, what has happened is, of course, when we were in the desktop era, when we were in the laptop era, there was significant digital divide, but not in the smartphone era. There is that leapfrog jump, leapfrog modernization, we'll call it as. The leapfrog modernization in the rural areas speak about skipping this stages of the desktop and laptops, and now they have directly come down to the smartphones. So everybody is having access to the digital world today. Okay, maybe yes, I'm relatively comparing it with 10 years back and today. Okay, maybe it is not 100% that bridge is like reduced, but still that is a significant amount of improvements. So that smartphone has given them good space for like accessing the world content in the regional language.
Right.
Okay, so that is something that we can say, that there is no much significant digital divide.
That means we can say the regional cultures are getting a lot of boost. Because
Yes, of course, we can say that. What I'm trying to tell you is basically here in the rural areas also, like how it is actually boosting the regional languages, that is something we need to look at. The globalization that is like narrowed the divide, the digital divide, is also responsible for that, like, sort of the overcoming the idea that is called as homogenization of language. Okay, there is much of the pluralism that you can see in the regional areas. So more than 50% of the rural consumers are preferring to watch the content or learn the content or get exposed to the content in the regional languages.
Right.
So that is something we can see.
Now, sir, another important impact of social media is that it has been affecting the traditional community structures.
Right, yes.
How has that happened so far?
So here I would like to bring the perspective of Emily Durkheim. Emily Durkheim comes with a concept called social solidarity. So earlier, traditionally, if you see, the social solidarity was like exhibited through community gathering, where face-to-face gathering was there. But today, you can actually see there are WhatsApp groups, there are Facebook groups, there are several other groups, which is bringing people from across the world who are having the same idea. Like for example, there are professional based groups. Okay, like maybe the teachers community have a group on LinkedIn, or like for example, you can think about there are certain preferences oriented groups. Okay, like in Delhi, there is the Karnataka community. Okay, the Kannada speaking community has their own group.
Right.
Okay, similarly, there is Telugu speaking community. So the same thing would happen even in USA, or Indian community ka ek group hoga. So they are connected not by face-to-face gathering, but they are actually connected by the digital media. So that is something you can see as the social solidarity of Emily Durkheim, but in the new context. Okay.
Now, sir, every technology has its boon and bane.
Yes.
So, what are the challenges associated with the spread of digital media?
The challenges with respect to the digital media or mediascape, let us call it as Arjun Appadurai's concept. The mediascape or the exposure to such huge global platform can be misused. Like how? Misinformation can be generated. There can be privacy issues. Okay, and there can also be certain to an extent of like even the mispropaganda that can happen, that can disturb the social stability, right? So that ways if we see, it's a challenge.
Now, sir, the last question before we conclude the session. What are the 3 important anthropological insights you'd expect any student of anthropology to have?
Yeah. So when we look at this particular anthropological insights to have with respect to globalization or in general anthropological answers, the first important thing is we need to have the clarity of the processes, whether it is westernization, globalization, or like localization or any such things. We need to have a clarity on that concept. And the second most important thing I would like to list here is when you're answering, please try to bring the scholars, their works. And the third important thing is justify these with some Indian examples, case studies, or also on the global platform you can bring certain. So what I'm trying to do is like the same thing which I'm professing here is the same thing that I followed in the entire series today, right? Every particular question that was asked to me by you was given with a substantial evidences and also the backing of the scholar's name and their concept. This is what is going to differentiate a question like impact of globalization on Indian society when asked in general studies versus when asked in UPSC paper. This is the difference.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights and
Thank you.
valuable time. Now, dear viewers, I hope you must have liked and enjoyed the session. It was a little bit lengthy but very informative. Even those who do not have anthropology as their optional subject, they can also use a lot of fodder, a lot of content to enrich the answers. We'll keep coming up with more such interesting sessions. Wish you all the very best.